In today's short video, we're going to dive straight into the question of, could you work for the Liverpool FC Academy? Now your first consideration is, where do you study? The best place would be Liverpool John Moores University. Now if you're watching this video and you're saying, well, I'm not in Liverpool, I'm already doing my undergraduate degree somewhere else, that's fine. You can tick that bit off, but I'd start looking at masters, start looking at PhDs at this university. They have great links with the football team, first team and academy, so if you can, I would go and study there. But wherever you study, you've got to get the basics right. So first of all, you need to turn up to class, lecturers need to know who you are. You need to get to know the lecturers, particularly the ones who work in high performance sport. I would befriend them, pick their brains, and the more you know each other, the better chance you can get a really good reference when you graduate. Also, you need to show enthusiasm. So you need a good grade, you need a 2-1 really doing your undergrad degree, but it's mostly about your personality. So if that's a bit off and you have a poor attitude, it's not going to help you going forwards. You also need to do a bit of work away from class. So learn about academy specific topics. You can do that via podcasts and journal articles. This is one podcast you can listen to. There's plenty out there related to academy sport. This one here I'll put a link to below in the description. And I'll also add a link to this one as well. So this paper here speaks about biobanding. There's all sorts of specific areas in academy football you need to learn about. This is just one. Do your reading, get on Google Scholar, try and get comfortable with these areas. So just to summarise this bit very quickly, if you can, get yourself over to Liverpool, study over there at the university. You need the right attitude as a student, and you need to do the extra stuff, that commitment, in your spare time. Secondly, networking is key. Who should you network with? The obvious answer would be someone who works at Liverpool. I recommend you just speak to one person at a time. Don't email 5 or 6 people with the same template email at once. That will just wind people up and it's not going to get you anywhere. Your goals of networking should be this. You need to learn about what's it like to work with Liverpool, how do you get a job at Liverpool, what's the actual role like. If you want to be a physiotherapist, email their physiotherapist, understand a bit more about the job day to day. Eventually, after a few messages, you can try and go in there and shadow with the team. That is possible, but you don't want to do that straight away. And that comes down to my next point. Don't be weird when you're networking. What do I mean by that? Well, don't be overly demanding. Don't send your first message and say, right, when can I come in? Or when can we have a call? You can't be that pushy. Keep the message short, keep it polite, a couple of questions, no more than 4 or 5 questions, it's too long, people won't read it. And just send one reminder message. If you email the person at Liverpool 4 or 5 times, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You look like a bit of a stalker, a bit of a creep, and no matter how many times you email, they're not going to get back to you. The more you do it, the worse it gets. Now, I've broken this down into 2 sections. You've got the initial message here, so I've got a template on the sort of things you could be asking. And after 7-10 days, you don't get a message back. Here's a template for a reminder. Links to both of these videos are in the description below. So to summarize this bit, get on LinkedIn, have a professional sounding email address as well. Your etiquette needs to be spot on when you're speaking to these people, and keep in touch. Don't just send one message, get a reply, move on. I would keep in touch with that person 3 or 4 times a year. Don't speak to them every single week, that's way too much, they'll get fed up of you. But a few times a season, just so they remember your name and remember who you are, you can't go wrong doing that. Okay, next point, who should you be working with? So what type of experience do you need to give yourself the best chance of working with Liverpool? And I've broken this down into 3 sections during your degree and the year afterwards. So you've got the early phase, which I'll jump into now. So what I mean by that is your first, second year at university. In the early phase, get experience in any sport. Just work with kids. It doesn't matter which sport in year 1, year 2. Preferably you're going to be working in football, that is a bonus, but kids are kids, whether they play for Liverpool Academy or if they play hockey. It doesn't really matter at this point. Just get coaching experience or whatever it is that you're interested in. You'll learn a lot just working with kids in general. You get to the later phase, so end of 2nd year, start of 3rd year. The next step is working in football. Try and get a short-term placement. You see 9 clubs here, but I would email as many teams as possible around the world and get a short-term placement. You're going to learn so much, even just in a couple of weeks, and you're going to build contacts who can help you in the future if you make a good impression. That's exactly what I did in my final year as a sports science student in my undergrad degree. I went to Coventry City for 2 weeks in their academy, and everything I've just said, what you could do, I did that. I got knowledge, I understood a bit more about how the system works, and I built contacts who I still speak to today, and this was 8 years ago when I did this placement. Also in your later phase is your dissertation. So final year, obviously you've got your dissertation. Ideally, that would be something related to football and academy football. So for example, you see bioband in there, but a lot of generic areas such as recovery, fatigue, S&C related, psychology, anything that relates to football and academy players makes your CV a bit stronger. So here's a short video working at Leicester City. Again, the link is in the description. When I was doing my masters, I did the projects with the academy at Leicester, and it put me in good stead. I did a PhD the year afterwards, and the feedback from that PhD interview was, well, you've got experience doing research in football. So it really is paramount that you look at doing stuff like this. Okay, so I'm going to go to the graduate phase now. So picture you've finished your degree. In those 12 months afterwards, what I recommend you do is get an internship for a year. No masters, just get an internship. You can go straight to a masters, that's not wrong, loads of people do that as well, but in my opinion, there's no distractions. If you're at a club for a whole season, day to day, you're going to get that bit more exposure and experience compared to doing a part-time internship during your masters. The downside is you're not going to get paid, but that's sadly the reality. Now and again you can get paid, but it doesn't really happen. Okay. Next point is, how do you actually get an internship like this? It's easier said than done, me just saying, yeah, go and get an internship. How do you do it? Well, you need to step back. So those final few months before you graduate, I would be on Google looking at every academy football team in, for me, the UK, depends what country you're in. I would be looking at all the teams, create a list and contact all of them, and just put your CV out there and inquire about any internships they may have in the following season. That's exactly what I did. I emailed about 150 teams in the last 6 months of my undergraduate degree, and I didn't get many offers, I didn't get many replies, but you need to email that volume of people to make it work. Leicester Tigers was one team that gave an opportunity. I worked there for a year, so the video there on the right hand side speaks about the opportunity that I had. Again, links are in the description below. If you want to know more about doing an internship and how to stand out as an intern, and also some of the issues that you may face as an intern working in sports science, more videos are here as well below. Okay, summarize this bit very quickly. Start at grassroots. It can be any sport the first couple of years. Just work with kids, get used to working with kids. Also see if you like it. You might not enjoy it and the Liverpool dream's over. Specialize in an area and network as well. Those last few months are really crucial. You put the time in to try and get that position when you graduate. Okay, so let's step back a second. You've got your degree. You've got a year's work experience, hopefully by now, and you're going to look forward into a master's, a PhD, and also accreditation as well. There's a lot of people that want to work at Liverpool, and you need to find that way to stand out. This is how you do it, by doing the extra stuff. It is possible to combine research and football as well. So I'll just give you an example here. I looked at an advert the other day online. It was a PhD working in a psychology-related area at Bournemouth University and also being embedded with Southampton. So you can do a master's, a PhD, you get paid. It's not a great salary, a PhD. It could be 14, 16 grand a year, but day to day you can go and work for a football club as well. It's not just Southampton that do this. Leeds United, Wolves, Leicester, amongst other teams, actually have a master's or a PhD in place, so you can work for a team as well. How do you find out more about this? I recommend you go on Google, type in UKSCA vacancies, go on this frequently, keep an eye out for any opportunities that may come your way. I'd also recommend going on the Training Ground Guru website. There's a really good article by Sofie Kent-Ryan. She recently did a PhD at the University of Wolverhampton in conjunction with Wolverhampton Wanderers, and it's a very honest account of the pros and cons of doing something like this. You also need accreditation. You can't avoid this. You need to be accredited. You've got UKSCA, for example, their strength and conditioning, amongst others you can see on the screen. You need to understand which one you need. How do you do that? Well, if you go on jobs in sports science or UKSCA vacancies, just look at job adverts and just understand which specific qualifications you will need. Okay, so hopefully now you're qualified. You've got everything that I've spoken about. That will put you in a position to go and work at Liverpool. Now, the hard bit is actually getting into Liverpool despite being qualified. How do you actually do that? Well, there's different ways. There's knowing people. I've ranked this actually, so this is the most important one first. Knowing people, it's really common. And that's why I said go to Liverpool John Moores. That will give you the best opportunity because you're close to the club, you'll be around people that know people. So this is the most common way really of how people move around clubs. Also impress as an intern. So let's say you're doing your masters and you do a couple of weeks at Liverpool, stand out, or try and find a way that you can be really innovative and make a difference at the club. It's not all about results, it's also passion as well. That is what will get you up the ladder and give you more exposure to the club. You'll need an excellent reputation, so let's say you go a different route and you work at a different team for 2 or 3 years before Liverpool. What can you do to be innovative? What can you do to make your CV really, really good, stand out, that Liverpool go, we're going to try and poach this person to come to our club? Another way of doing it is kind of the way that everyone just assumes how you do it, applying for a role. But I'll be very honest here, and it's really key. If you take anything from this video, take this. Jobs are super competitive. If Liverpool put a job out tomorrow in their academy, hundreds of people are going to go for it. And if you don't know anyone at the club, it's going to be very hard. And to be honest, a lot of clubs have someone in mind. They will advertise, but really they'll advertise just to see if someone really good comes along. Most of the time, they know who they want, but they have to advertise. And the last one is luck. Now, you might listen to a podcast and the person says, I got really lucky, right place, right time. This is kind of the least common way of really doing it. You can make your luck by networking a lot, but sometimes you can go to a conference, you can meet someone who works at Liverpool, they like you, and a few months later you've got a job at the club. That is kind of a dream world that doesn't really happen, but it could. Okay, so going back to the question, could you work for Liverpool FC Academy? It's possible. There's a lot of barriers, but it's certainly possible if you do the right things. So time-wise, you're looking at about 10 years if you do a PhD. If it's the BSc and MSc, around about 5 years. Research-wise, if you want to stand out, do some research. If you can get some academy-specific publications out there during a PhD, a master's, that will make your CV look much stronger. And if you can become a leading name in a certain research area related to academy football, even better. You'll need experience. It's unlikely that you will go straight from your degree working at Liverpool. You might work at another team. Bear in mind, Liverpool's one of the best academies in the world. But you've got to dial it back straight to first year of university. Don't just wake up in third year or your master's and go, oh shit, I get some experience now. You need to be doing this from year one, grassroots, and just gradually work your way up. And you may need to work in elite football for 3, 4, 5 years at another club before Liverpool take you seriously. Qualifications wise, it's not just about your degree. Don't just say, well, I've got my PhD, so surely that is the pinnacle of my career. You will need to be accredited, whether it be UKSCA or BASIS or whatever it is that's related to the role. Make sure you get that. Do not ignore it. Okay, thanks for watching this video about Liverpool. I've got plenty of videos out there now about how to work in high performance sport. I recommend you take a look. If you have any suggestions for other teams or sports, let me know and I'll put something together. Okay, thanks for listening and I'll speak to you again soon.